Hi, and welcome to another video by Jimthecarguy. Today we have a 2010, it's a Honda Accord, and what we're going to be replacing today is actually the left front hub bearing. The vehicle, well, I'm going to bring you up here, I'll show you what it sounds like before we do anything, but when you spin the wheel you can hear like a growling noise inside the wheel. While it's on the lift you can hear it. When you're driving it, it sounds like there's somebody riding next to you on a motorcycle. It's so noisy. So, and you can feel it in the floor of the car itself, the rumbling. Let me just show you what the bearing looks like. Now, I'm not pushing one bearing or another, but I never like to use a poor quality bearing. I always try to use a good bearing such as Timken or Moog or something along that line here. This is the bearing itself. This bearing is actually pressed into the hub, so we need to use a press to press this out once we take it all apart. The kit that I use here at the shop, you have two different ways of doing it. One, you can take the entire knuckle apart and you can put it into a press and you can press it apart, you know, off the vehicle. Or you can do it with this tool made by OTC. It's called a hub grappler, and you can do it while it's on the car, and you don't have to take the whole assembly out of the vehicle to do it. So let me bring you up there. I'll show you the noise, and I'm going to show you what tools we're going to need, and then we're not going to talk anymore. We're just going to get to work. All right, let's get up there. Okay, so that's our wheel. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but let's see what happens. You might be able to hear that. Quite a bit of noise out of that. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our caliper off of the car, and we're going to relocate that off to the side. Okay, I just wanted to show you what I'm doing in here. I'm taking out that bolt there and that bolt there. We're going to move the caliper off to the side, and then we're going to come down underneath here, that 17 millimeter right there. We're going to take out that one and one down on the bottom over here, and we're going to move this mounting bracket off, and then we're going to remove this rotor from the car, and we will take out a couple of these screws right here too. So that's what you're going to see me doing. Now we're going to take our rotor off. We are going to use my dryer to get this out of here. Now the part that's really bad is inside of here, so we're going to shoot this nut off right here, and we'll loosen that up. Now you notice that that axle moved in. That's a good thing. Okay, now we need to take this axle out so we can get the grappler onto here, so we can pull this out. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to disconnect the sensor in the back over here. This is actually the ABS sensor we're removing right now. Okay. That's where we're taking it out right here, and then we're going to also remove it from down over here as well. That's the ABS sensor that we're going to be taking out. That's what I was telling you about, that magnetic ring inside there. Okay, so we did take out that bolt right there that holds the ABS cable over to the strut. And we did take out this bolt over here that holds the brake line to also again to this bracket. We are going to take out that nut right there. We're going to shoot this out with the air, and we're going to take this tie rod end off. We are also going to disconnect that ball joint right there and pop that ball joint up so we can get this axle shaft out of here, because our tool needs to go inside there. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, so now that we have these nuts air gunned off both the tie rod end and the ball joint, you can bang this with a hammer and that usually pops right out. And we're going to use a tool down here to pop the ball joint out because we don't want to damage that joint. So let's do that. They come out fairly easy if you hit them solidly. And now we'll use that tool down on the bottom right there. Okay, so this is the tool that I have installed down there now, and it holds on the bottom of the ball joint, and then we push it up like that. Now let me just explain one thing to you. What I always do is put a nut on there like that, because you don't want to damage the threads where the tool is on the stud itself. All right, so I always put a nut back on there just in case. And now we're going to get in here with some air, and we're going to air gun this and get it to pop off. Now it sounded like it broke, but it didn't break anything. It just popped. It just popped out. You may have to just tap that out of there. But that's the tool. This again is made by OTC. We'll take that nut back off. And now, our front end is caught. But we are going to have a problem, and I'm going to show you why. Because the wishbone is in the way here. You see the wishbone here? We can't lift it up high enough to get that out. And we need to pull that axle shaft out. So what we're going to do here, instead of disconnecting the wishbone, we're going to disconnect the upper ball joint, and that'll give us that little room that we need. So we're going to do the same thing we did here on the other one. Get in here, we'll take that off. So we're just going to take this and break it loose. Let's just tap it a few times to see if we can get it to pop out. There it is. Now we can just lift up a little bit and unscrew the nut so we can move the and now we can take this. I'm going to take this over on the bench here. We're going to work on this sensor right here to see if I can get this out, and we'll come back and we'll use the hub grabber on this. Okay, what I decided to do, I was able to get that ABS sensor out. It was really tight, but I was able to get it out without breaking it. Save the customer a couple of bucks on a sensor. Instead of putting this back in the car, I'm going to put this in the vise right over here, and we're going to use the hub grappler on it set up here in the vise versus putting it back on the car. So let me get set up over here and we'll continue. Okay, first thing we did was we popped off this inner ring inside there, and the way we did that is we just got underneath here with a pry bar and just popped it right off just like that, and we'll put that to the side. We will need to put that back on. This is the bearing, and that's the piece we're going to push out now. So let me hook this up in the vise and we'll continue. Okay, so I just want to show you the setup now that we have. This is going to be actually pushing against right here, and this piece here will be pushed out by this piece in the back right over here, up against the back part over here. All right, so now we're going to shoot this with air. We're going to hold this back here with the wrench, and then we'll air gun that out. So let's continue. Okay, now there's a snap ring inside here. You can see I sprayed it up already with penetrating oil. We're just going to try to rattle it around a little bit to get it to loosen up. Getting that snap ring out was a pain in the rear end, so I had to just keep on hammering with the impact chisel until I was able to get in there with my snap ring pliers, squeeze it, and then get behind it with a screwdriver and pry it out. Alright, so that's that. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to press out this bearing. Now this bearing is coming out this direction. That's why the snap ring was on there, because it actually holds the bearing in place. So let me get the tool set up and then we'll shoot that out too. Okay, then we'll get this all set up on here. We have our attachments like this. Put it through here, over the top. We slide our other attachment on this end over here. And now we air gun it here, and we hold it here, and it's going to pull that bearing into here. Make sure you're wearing your safety goggles too. There we go. Take our bearing, came right out. I'm just going to put this off to the side for now. This, and this, this, and that is our old bearing. Alright, so now remember what I told you about putting the bearing back in. It's got to be a certain direction. It has to be magnetic. Let me show you. See? That's the magnetic side. I'll show you my new bearing. See? Nothing. That's the magnetic side. So you have to make sure you put the magnetic side in correctly. Alright, now, we took this bearing out. This part was in there, because if you remember correctly, remember this piece here came apart? It was like that. So we know the magnetic part has got to go inside. Oh, you know what? Let's take that off. They always get stuck on here. Because of the rust that's around this section right here. Alright, so we'll put this off to the side for now as well. This actually looks fairly clean inside already. Alright, the only thing we are going to do is we are going to clean out this groove right here, where our snap ring is going to go back in. So I'm going to clean this all out here real good. That's nice and clean. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this snap ring here, and you need to clean this up here with some sandpaper or whatever. I'm going to use my wire wheel to clean it up, but I'm going to clean this up first, and then we'll get set up and we'll put this thing back together. Alright? Alright, now we're going to put our bearing back in. I always put a little bit of never seize or anti-seize, whatever you want to call it, inside here to make it slide just a little bit easier, if that's a possibility. Alright? Now, again, I'm going to show you. Make sure you take your bearing, make sure where's the magnetic side. That's the magnetic side right there. We know that was facing in this way, so that's the way we're going to put the new bearing back in there as well. Does not stick. It does stick. Okay? So that's the side that we're going to put in. It's going in just like this here. Now, We are going to put this in, but I just want to tap this a little bit. Just like that, just to get it to hold for a second. I'm going to take this, and this, and this. This goes over the top of the bearing. Like now, again, all these numbers for these items, they're in the booklet. I'll put this in the back over here. I'll set it up and I'll bring you in there and I'll show you. Okay, come on over, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, that's around the back, right in here. I cleaned out that rust that was in there. This fits into that groove right there. That's where that metal ring went. This is now in here, and this is up against the outer portion of the bearing, and now we're going to shoot it in there. Now if you look right in here, you'll see that we now have room for that snap ring to go back in there. You see how far in the bearing is? And it's all the way in as far as it can go in the back over there. You can see the anti-seize came out. That's it. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to put that snap ring back in, which sometimes is a little bit tricky, but we cleaned it up on the machine. And now we're just going to put it in. You catch the one corner in there. This is the way I do them. Sometimes you try to get in here with your snap ring pliers. You can do it. It's a little bit difficult to squeeze it closed. And you just don't want it going flying across the room. Just like that. And now what I'll do is I'll take a hammer and just tap it to make sure that is popped in. Okay. All right, so that's it. Our bearing is now in. Our snap ring is now locked in here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up over here, and we're going to cut this section off right here. So let me get set up and we'll come right back. And I'm not sure how you're going to be able to see this, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to cut this along here like this, just so we can do it this way maybe, just so we can split that open. Then we take a hammer, we put it in here. We don't want to scratch this up or damage this here. So now we just cut it most of the way through, and now we split it with a chisel. Or you can use an impact, whatever you want to. I'm going to try it by hand first. You can see it's rotating already. And I just get behind it. Nothing on here. What we do is we cut this 3/4 of the way through, maybe just a little bit more, and then you come in here with a real big chisel so that it doesn't go down into the groove, but it actually splits the bearing or the race apart just like that. All right, so now we got this off. Let's put our other piece back in the vise and put this back in there and wrap it up. Our hub, let's put some never-sees on that as well. Just a little bit. Just like that. And now this is going to go in here like this, but you can't just push this in without holding the bearing in the back. And the reason I say that is because this piece has to go on here just like that, because if you try to push something through here without holding this, the back portion of the bearing is going to blow out through the back of it. So that's why we have to put that piece on there like that, so that this holds the bearing and it pulls this all the way through. I hope you understand that. Hold it with this. That's it. Our hub bearing is in. And I just want to show you one more thing to do here. I'm going to take this. We're just going to stand this right here. And then we're going to take our piece that we previously removed. And we're going to put that right back on there. And I might add, you want to mark how you took this off. It's not imperative, but I always do. I just want to tap it down. All right, so now our bearing is in. It's all back together. Everything is finished, nice and quiet. Let's get back over by the car. Let's put this back on there, and let's get this job out the door and on to the next. I'm just going to get this put back up in here on our axle. Catch the nut on the bottom here. We're just going to catch this all loosely for now. All right. This axle nut has to be torqued on with a torque wrench, just so you know. All right, let's get our ball joint back in there. Let's get our nut back on the top ball joint. All right, let me get my tool cart back over here. Works out very well. So take your tools with you wherever you go, right? All right, this one is pretty tight already. I'm just going to snug it down. Put our tie rod in, back in as well. And now we're going to tighten up all of these bolts in here. First, we're going to start with the upper. Back into here. All right, that's it. Our ABS sensor is now in. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit here, but I will come back and I will tighten this up with a the axle nut right here. I will tighten this up with an air gun temporarily, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tighten it up with the torque wrench. So I'm just snugging it in right now. Was pretty tight anyway, so okay, so that's all caught now. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to put our rotor back on the vehicle. And last but not least, we're going to torque that nut down right there. And the way we're going to do it is we need to hold this rotor so that it does not rotate. So what we're going to do, we're just going to stick in a screwdriver in here like this, and then we'll turn this and bring it up until it hits here. And now we need 242 foot-pounds. Okay, that's it. All right, so we put our, we tightened up the top ball joint. We tightened up the lower ball joint. We also tightened up the tie rod end and put cotter pins in all three. We put our ABS sensor back in, put everything back where it belongs. We snapped our connector back together, put it back into the holder where it belongs right here, and we tightened it up down in there. That's all set. We put our brake line back into its holder right here. We mounted our mounting bracket back on, two 17mm bolts, both tight, two 14mm bolts here, both tight. These bolts here are tight for the holder rotor. And last but not least, we actually 242 foot-pounds to tighten that up. Last thing we're going to do before we go any further, I'm just going to peen this down right here. See how that has that? We're just going to peen this down right into that axle. You know what? Let's do it right now. I'm going to actually do it without gloves on. You believe that? On the top, just like this. Tap it down. And that's it. After you torque it with 242 foot-pounds, it's kind of unlikely it's ever going to loosen up. But we always peen it over just like that, just to make sure it's safe. All right, that's it. We're all done. We're going to take obviously we're going to put the tire back on, and we're going to take it out and take it for a test drive, make sure it's nice and quiet. I'm sure it's going to be nice and quiet because that bearing was dead. So that's it. We're all done. The other side, we did that side already, so it's good to go. So that's it. All right. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.